Hello, welcome to It Ain't New, the show that represents the history of ethnic minority groups in the USA and where knowledge becomes power. If you don't know, now you know. We're Nike,
Boa, Estar,
your very real hosts.
All right, we're back to recording.
Okay.
So yes.
So really, what I'm saying, I love how Star says. What I'm saying is like the reason why I brought up say like Soy Inc.
Okay.
I don't know if it was necessarily Isuman's like actual creative idea, but I'm saying it in the sense of like because SM since their kind of founding, SM and the creative minds behind it, not just Isuman, but the creative minds behind it were very much like forward thinking at least.
Okay.
So when you look at even the change to using soy ink, even the change to using more less plastic and more paper for their albums and things like that, that was really the creative minds being like, okay, this is becoming a problem. Like, we're not going to necessarily stop them from buying, 20, 40 albums. Like, in fact, we don't want them to stop buying.
Right.
No,
So let's make
it counts towards like charts and things.
Exactly. So let's make it better. Let's print this in soy ink on cardboard and send that. Like, we can recycle the boxes. We can like anything that doesn't necessarily get used. Like, we can do that. Now, there's still obviously still a problem with some of the plastic that's used, but there's less of it. And that was literally SM being like, we don't want them to stop buying so many albums, but we do see that this could be a problem in the future.
Right.
This is also why people were complaining, because I think there was one song, I don't know, it was an aespa song maybe, right around the time when Isuman was leaving SM. That's when the Nepo baby decided to say that it was because he wanted to change one of aespa's songs to be about trees. And I'm like, I mean, he's being a little environmentally conscious. What's wrong with that? But of course, they're kind of like, well, this is not what we think should be going forward. And it was like this weird argument that became where it's like, no, these are actual problems that he's trying to solve and trying to move forward in. So now when he's not in the picture, because he was also the mind behind what we even call culture technology.
Right.
And then this was why he was actually moving towards like NCT and aespa and like everybody being a part of Kwangya, which legit, I can't wait to do a deep dive into Kwangya because it's one of my favorite places to be. One of my favorite places to talk about, at least. But around that time, there's still no other real companies even talking about like having their own essentially metaverse for their artists. And like it's a weird space because I'm like, well, all of the other, like, everybody's moving faster and faster into AI, all this other stuff, and none of the music is really thinking of following, but they kind of are. But it's just like a weird space where no one's talking about it, no one's discussing how we're going to do that, how things are going to be even like when it comes to creatively, like what things are going to be owned, which is a huge problem happening right now. And so I'm just like, well, mainly because y'all didn't kick Isuman out. So he's like, whatever. But I heard he's in China right now, basically trying to create another SM with other former SM execs. So I'm just like, by all means, dude, please come back. And this is why I'm saying, again, this is my opinion.
Down.
No.
The man
and this
will
is again,
retire when he's dead.
Thank you. And this is again why I'm just like, this is why we get the performance of JYP. As much as I do love JYP,
oh my god,
that performance,
oh my god,
was wild and unhinged.
And okay, yes, let's please talk about it. And I speak as a fan, who is like, y'all wish that you could have the nerve to do that when you are his age.
Yeah.
But I was just like, bah, stylist? Like, did you have one? Like if he had just looked hot and done that, it would have been fine. But that he looked like a guy liner mess, I was just
Ooh.
It was also the reactions that made it so much just, I don't even know, better or worse, who knows? But Dio and Crystal being like, how do I respond to this? Other people just being purely shocked, and then I was like, what happened? And then my first thought went, it's because Papa Suman is not there. Papa Suman would have been like, this might not be a good idea. Yeah, like this might not be a good idea.
I can't find it. Do I have to look for it in like Korean?
I have to.
No,
I have to see it.
I did see the Jackson reaction video.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
like, what makes me upset is that I first saw it as like a TikTok meme for man is going through like a middle-age crisis, and I was like, no, he is not. His stylist was like MIA, but he is not going through a middle-age crisis. Like, the man is doing fine. He just looked insane.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, you didn't want to become viral that way, bruh.
Okay, so this, I recently just finally got around to watching the Barbie movie, and right now everything that you're saying is like, was he crazy Barbie? Because Crazy Barbie was the one who got real messed up because like some kid played with her to the point where she broke down.
Crazy Barbie looked like Cynthia from Rugrats. So not necessarily. I don't know what was. No, I know what was going on. Papa Suman is gone, and JYP has no one to look to. Like, this is what people don't understand about K-pop. People don't connect the beginning of K-pop to K-pop now. But I can guarantee you, all of the people that were there in the beginning, behind the scenes and in front of the camera, are the same people that are there now. Like, no one has necessarily changed. Even people you would think, quote unquote, left, did not actually leave. Most of the time, they're the producers of these songs that y'all are loving so much.
Yeah, like they tend to just move behind the camera.
Right. Or become literally, or become choreographers, or become stylists, or like they did not actually leave. There's very few that have actually left the industry.
Yeah.
Like, very few. And granted, I don't think they really should, because a lot of them were actually very good, just in different areas.
Yeah.
So again, like, even for oh my goodness, why Sketchbook?
Yeah.
Dude was literally there in the beginning of K-pop.
Yeah.
Like, what we understand is K-pop.
Yeah.
Why do you think everyone goes there? Like, I'm like, these people just don't. They don't connect it to that. Like, and it gets kind of weird because it's like, I think one of the issues that JYP is having right now is that JYP doesn't have a successor.
Yeah.
He hasn't named anyone.
Would be able to even take over to kind of get it on. And it's weird because it's like, you have to train a successor. Like,
you need time.
Which is exactly where Isuman went wrong. I'm sorry. But granted, the nephew is not actually CEO anymore, but still.
Like, you need time to pick a successor and train them and like pass the company on to them.
Right. And I think one of the issues that has happened, especially at JYPE, because we're not necessarily just talking about the person here, people. One of the things that happened is that almost all of the people that could have been his successor are gone. Well, they're not at JYP.
Right.
And we figured out, as much as I love Rain, and everybody should know, I do love Rain, he's not a good manager of talent. He's great at finding talent. He's great at even training talent.
He's great at
He's
inspiring
great at
them.
being the talent. But he's not great at actually managing the talent. And so he can't take over. In fact, when he even tried to take over, he ended up handing it back to JYP. Like, there's a whole thing about that, people. then you get to so yeah, so at SM, what I'm waiting for to happen at SM, I don't know if it actually will happen, is I'm gonna need Boa and and Kangta and who else could theoretically like be good?
Like at
Suho.
managing?
Yes. Like I'm gonna just need them folks to take over. And but I mean, look at it. This is the same thing that I know some other people too thought about with YG.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was like, if Big Bang takes over, or even if just GD and Top take over, like they'll be fine. But right now, everybody's like, what's going on at YG? So that's why I'm like, what's happening now is no one knows where YG is. Isuman is not in Korea. And because of that, JYP doesn't know necessarily who to turn to, except for turning to Bang Shiuk. But Bang Shiuk is kind of going around. I don't know what he's doing, because that interview, I still hope it was not real. But that interview of taking the K out of K-pop was kind of wild. It was like, but we're not trying to go back to the generic or general pop style. Like that's a lot of people kind of moved to K-pop because it wasn't so much American pop.
Right.
So
It
to go
offered an
back to that,
alternative.
yeah, I was like, so to go back to that is kind of weird to me. I hope he was meaning something else.
I don't think so, because for me, the most recent TXT releases
Mm-hmm.
have been very Western, and while I like them, I don't really like, they're not scratching my K-pop itch, and
Right.
it bothers me that I think my favorite like TXT release is their debut, and like it's like Crown, and it's very K-pop, and they don't even perform it at concerts anymore.
Right.
Like I've seen TXT twice and I've never seen Crown live. And so I'm a little, I get that this is where they're heading, especially with a company like Hybe,
Mm-hmm.
where they have a firm foothold in the Western market now, and they've been making managerial moves behind the scenes, like acquiring, smaller labels and things. And they definitely want to become like a global thing. But personally, as a K-pop fan, I hate that when people think, oh, we want to be more global, that immediately means we want to be more Western. We want to be more American. Like, I get that the US is the biggest music market, and that the second one is Japan, and Japan's not really like going to move into like a global culture anytime soon because they don't have to.
Right.
I I just don't know that the Americanization of K-pop is something I'm here for in the long run.
Because it's going into like I really want to have a sit down chat with some of these people to really
like
or at least kind of sort of I mean, hey, why not? I would love to sit and just be like, okay, what, like, where are these? And then even be like, okay, I see where your mind went here. What's going on now? Right? Because in the move to literally take the K out of K, like, it's so weird because in Korea, there's a very big difference in, or at least when it comes to like how fans react to certain things, there's a big difference between, or at least you can tell where it's like, let me rephrase this, not the fans, more so in the critic space.
Mm-hmm.
The critics recognize, I mean, they should, they're critics, but they recognize the difference between what's Western and what's essentially more Korean. So like when I read even who is that I ended up reading? I can't remember the person's name right now. It's neither here nor there. But there's like this huge there's a section of people who are just like K-pop is just Western pop anyway. And I'm like, no, it's really not.
Huge eye roll.
Doesn't right. I'm like, no, it doesn't matter that you've got like all these different Western producers,
correct,
or people from the West on there. They're like, I'll give an example. Taemin's Move. Literally produced by a black hold on. Sorry. Now this is getting into something else that I figured out. Folks always talk about how Korea has no race, right?
What do you mean by that?
Or because they have one race, there's no racism. There's no
the homogeneous,
or they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge thing of like Korea doesn't know race because they don't really have the racial differences. And I'm like,
am I allowed to laugh out loud at that?
Yes, you are. Please do.
Because I'm just like,
it's an absurd thought. I feel like
because you have a monoculture, you think that makes you race blind?
Right. No, people really do believe that. That's why when there's situations that happen, especially in K-pop, where you're just like, oh, this was actually quite racist, there's always that fallback of, well, they didn't know.
Like, you know how early on when we were like recording, we're like, we don't like the word colorblind. This kind of falls into that.
Even early on, that still doesn't make sense.
Exactly, right?
And even from just 2 research papers that I had to do for a class.
But there's a difference between being like, okay, they didn't know, to then carrying it to the conclusion, the erroneous conclusion, so they can, like, they're excused.
Right. But this is what people still even try and hold to this day.
I will buy that. I, you know, to a certain extent, like in a monoculture, you know, how are they supposed to be race conscious? But I don't carry that over to then they can be as racist as they want,
right,
with impunity.
Right, exactly. And but the thing is, though, even just with Korea's history, there's no way. But again, people don't necessarily think about this either. But with Korea's history, there's no way that they don't know.
Correct, because Americans have been there at least for the past 70 years.
But even longer than that, before that.
Right.
When you have Japan and China coming in, like, you can't claim that you don't know.
Oh, but you know, they all look alike, Bella, so
I know,
like,
there's that.
It was still a monoculture.
Right.
Oh my God.
Except, you know, we all spoke different languages. Sarcasm. Except we all spoke different languages, and we don't really all look alike. For those that don't know, now you know.
Thank you. So, sorry. But yeah, going back to, I had to say that to go back to
going back to Taemin.
Taemin's Move as an example.
Yeah.
So, on the surface, of course, you're going to be, okay, Western producer, obviously producing something for a K-pop artist.
Mm-hmm.
The first, also, I think the producer used to work at Capitol as well, Capitol Records.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I can see that.
So down the street over in Hollywood.
American pop. Yes, very American pop, right? When he tells the story of how he produced it, he basically, because what you do is you basically rate these songs and you shop the songs around to different people.
Mm-hmm. That's how movies are made too.
Thank you. So the song gets to SM. And if people don't understand how SM works too, SM actually has these camps where they're like, here's the projects we've got coming up. We're writing songs for these projects.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go through
has
the songs.
them too.
Right?
Most
presumably JYP has, all major.
JYP has them. Oh, so there was a whole like contract thing where essentially a lot of the people who were at SM were also producing for JYP.
Yeah.
Like the same songs essentially were being shot between SM and JYP.
I mean, that's how Pound started out.
Right. Even if you look at the credits, like it'll be like, oh, this person, and then it'll probably have SM on there as a credit too.
Mm-hmm.
So, or YG, because a lot of Stray Kids stuff, if you look at the credits, they actually credit folks at YG.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, so SM, has these things. They pick the song. They're like, okay, it sounds good, but they literally send word back to the to the producer, hey, in the second verse, can you do this? And they will literally tell him, like, hey, can you like change it around? You actually, honestly, people, in order to really understand this, you have to listen to Taemin's Move. But they tell him to basically change it around. And then I believe there's a modulation of some sort in Move at one point. I'm not listening to it right now, so I can't tell you exactly where. But literally they told him to change the song. And this is why I can say most K-pop won't have good radio play in America because it's not
modulated for American ears.
Right. It's not
which is
meant
why
for...
I like it. Which is why it's catchy to me. It's not what I'll hear on Z100 all day, or what is the LA radio station.
You could say Kiss FM or Coast 103.5. Actually, definitely Coast 103.5
I
is
don't
not
listen
gonna...
to the radio on either coast.
Right. But like it's just not suited for
Western ears.
To be honest, it's weird.
Western palate.
Yeah, it's weird to say it like that, but yeah, it's not suited. To be honest, it's not suited for...
Top 40.
Weird to say that, but it is. It's not suited for innovation. It's not suited for, and what I mean by innovation in this sense is not like, oh, new stuff. No, it's not suited for improv in music. This is why you have to have specific radio stations for jazz. This is why you have to have specific radio stations for R&B or for any other, even for rap. You can't put rap a lot of times. Well, now you can because they've changed a lot of how rap sounds. But like, you're not gonna find, for example, Metro Boomin, the producer for Spider-Verse. You're not gonna find the majority of those songs on Kiss FM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it just doesn't fit.
Right. And then there's a bunch of songs that Metro Boomin has that literally is a combination of classical, like literally classical strings with an R&B vocal and a very hardcore rap, like in one song. That does not fit for the kind of general...
Popular
it's weird
radio.
To say, like, yeah, because we can't really say, or I'm not necessarily saying that like it's monotone or bad or something, but like the general, I mean, that's what pop music was supposed to be. It's kind of like everybody can listen to it type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then who is everybody? So like, because I mean, think about it. If you look at Motown, a lot of people basically said Motown, and even Whitney Houston, a lot of Black people did not like Whitney Houston at the beginning because they were like, she's too cookie cutter. This was why she had to change. In fact, she went to, was it the Soul Train Awards? She went to some Black award show. She was invited because it was actually where she met Bobby Brown, interestingly enough. She got booed off stage. Whitney Houston. Which you would think now most Black people love her for sounding too essentially white. Like they were like, you're too cookie cutter. Like your stuff is kind of just like
catering
like,
to the white audience was what they were thinking.
Right, because they were like, it's too... I mean, this is the same thing we use when we talk about food. Like we're like, white people don't use spices,
right?
Unless they're like Cajun or something. Like, like they have to be a specific type of white. Like this, it's the same thing when they talk about like pop. And for me, that's what was happening. Like, especially when the time I started to listen to particularly K-pop music. Like I was already into Korean popular culture, but like I would only listen to OSTs, and most of those are ballads. But like,
and a very different
kind
of ballad.
Happening. Right. But that's what was happening. Like I'm listening to, so if we're listening to pop music, I'm listening to ballads. I'm listening to I don't know. I was actually listening to more rock and roll back then, and I mean like heavy metal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, there was something that I wanted that was not in the American popular music industry at the time, or at least when it comes to the actual category of pop music, because popular music has so many meanings to it.
Mm-hmm.
So then K-pop comes along, and I'm listening to like Shiny Sherlock, and we're getting like what Atoy.
Oh my
from
god,
2PM.
yes.
Or BAPs, which I love BAPs, but these are B-side tracks. I was not necessarily a title track person, still not, but we've got BAPs like Fermata. Like, I'm listening to these like jazz lounge rap songs from a K-pop group, like literally a pop group they're supposed to be. And it's like, for K-pop to now switch to like this, it's like reselling this weird. Even boy bands weren't like that. Like NSYNC was not really doing, even though they played them on the stuff. NSYNC was really not doing a lot of, I don't know, cookie cutter.
They weren't Backstreet
things.
Boys,
right? So even 98 Degrees, like they really weren't. That wasn't the area that they were in, and this was why I tended to like their music more. I do still like Backstreet Boys, but it's like you have to want that. This was not what I was wanting. This is why subcultures exist. This is why K-pop was still a big deal. I'm putting that in air quotes because it wasn't mainstream, but it still had a good following of people in America.
Thank you all for listening to It Ain't New, where if you don't know, now you know. We're Nike,
Bella,
Estar.
Please show us some love on Spotify by leaving us a rating or a review, and join our Patreon so we can grow and continue to give you all wonderful content.